evening. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. Sorry.
Cool. We still have a couple minutes, so I'm just going to go on mute until we get started.
Sounds good.
All right, so if you are in here, you go ahead and get ready. We are going to be using our home lab setup. So if you need, hopefully you have that already set up. That was one of the prerequisites for the workshop. If you need the document to follow along, you to the bottom of the blackgirlshack.org webpage and click on the Go to Home Lab Setup. And that will take you to the home lab page. And there we are doing the new lab Who This walkthrough part 2. So you download that document so you can follow along in case you miss a click here or there and are not sure what it was that I was doing. And we will get started in about 4 minutes. but I just wanted to give you the chance to get your 2 labs up. Make sure that they are both on your network, so they are not connected to the internet. So if you use your Kali VM for something else, just make sure that it is on the network. And then your broken web app, of course, should be up and running, and it should never be on the network. And then also your Windows machine. We are not actually using the Windows machine for today's exercises. So if you are short on resources, you can leave that one powered down. All right, so for the folks who just came in late, again, on blackgirlshack.org, at the bottom, you can click go to Home Lab Setup. That'll take you to the page. And at the bottom, there's a link that says New Lab Who This, Walkthrough Part 2, which includes the steps that we're going to be doing in today's workshop. And if you miss any steps, you can use that. And we will get started in 3 minutes. I'm just saying, make sure that you have your VMs up and running. And if you just want to do a sanity check, you could ping the broken web app and then ping the Kali machine just to make sure that you're up and running, because we will be starting in approximately 1 minute. All right, it is 7:35 Eastern, so we are going to get started. Again, the lab work write-up is at the bottom of blackgirlshack.org. If you click on Go To, so if you happen to miss a step, then please feel free to check out the document that I just did. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask that, or type it into the chat window, which may or may not come up at some point. All right, so let's get going. By now, you should have your Kali VM up and running and networked, and you should note the IP address somewhere. So what I like to do is just pull up a notepad and keep track of this. So my Kali machine at this point in time is 10.0.2.7. And I can find that out by saying ifconfig in the terminal window. So the terminal window is up here, or you can get it onto the left sidebar window. And then in your broken web app, you can do the same thing, ifconfig, and it'll tell you. So mine is 10.0.2.14. So to get out of this window here, if your mouse gets trapped, you can just do the right control If you're using VMware, I think it's like maybe right shift or alt shift, something like that. But it normally says in the bottom right-hand corner what the escape sequence is. So the broken web app for me is 10.0.2.14. And this is going to be important because this is also going to be what's your web server address that you're about to go to, okay? So we wanted to, just as a sanity check, make sure that these are both on that network. So we want to ping the broken web app. So ping 10.0.2.14 for me. And you can press Control-C to escape out of that. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to say ping 10.0.2.7, which is the Kali machine, and make sure we have connection to both machines. That just makes sure that both of the machines are speaking to each other. But just make sure that both the machines are speaking to each other, okay? All right, so with that being said, now that we have connectivity, that's the first few steps. So 1 through 4 was basically just starting your VM and then launching the ifconfig on your Kali machine, which we've done. 5 through 7 was doing the same thing on the broken web app. And we don't actually need the Windows VM for today's exercises. So you can actually leave your Windows VM down, especially if you have resource issues on your computer. But if you want to pull it up, you can. Just make sure that it's connected to the other 3. And we have done steps 12, 13, and 14. And so we know that we have connectivity on all of these machines, so we are ready to get started, okay? So the first activity that we're going to do, in part, if you did not catch that, that's available on the blackgirlshack.org website. At the bottom of the page is actually the new lab who this walkthrough. So that was the part 1 of this, where we talked about WebGoat and getting experience in web application testing in the OWASP top 10. So today we're going to be doing some of the other things that are on the OWASP, on the broken web app, which are specifically the security shepherd and one of the other exercises in there. So in order to get up our broken web app applications, you're going to put in the IP address that you have for the broken web app. So mine is .14. So I just typed that into my URL here. And that allows me to be able to access the web server that is currently running on the broken web app. And we know that there's a web server running on the broken web app because in part 1 of this, which you don't have to have done in order to participate in this exercise, you just really need the VMs up and running. In part 1, we verified, we did an Nmap scan to see what was actually on the broken web app. So one of the ports that were open when you scan is 80, which is how we know that this web server is actually on here. Okay. So when we do that, we're going to hopefully be able to make it bigger. And we don't actually need to do anything in the broken web app now that we have the web server up. So you can actually just maximize your Kali machine. So if your Kali machine only goes this big, there was a step in the new lab VirtualBox setup, which included adding the guest extensions to your VirtualBox manager. So you can do that so that you can get the full screen for next time. But in the meantime, you'll probably just have to deal with the little guy. All right, so as I said, we did in the last new lab, we did the WebGoat. So that's just one of the options. So today we're going to be doing Security Shepherd and I think Damn Vulnerable Web App are the 2 that we're going to be doing today. So the first thing we're going to do, and this is also in the instructions, is we're going to put the Security Shepherd. So Security Shepherd is the 4th one down on the left. And it's saying, hey, Firefox is refusing connections. And that's actually because of the fact that I probably did not turn off my proxy. All right, so when we get in here, you'll see Security Shepherd that is open And I actually have some credentials in here because I put together the slides so that you guys can work on this. But you may not have any credentials in here, and that's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do first is to create an account. All right, so in order to register a security account, you're just going to put the click on here. And I like to use just test. I already have a test, so I'm going to say test 2. And then the password has to be 8 letters. So I'm just going to say test. And then you can just put in here test2 at test.com. You would do test at test.com. I just can't register, and our address is already in there. So. And it's not actually confirming the address or sending anything to it, so it doesn't really matter what it is that you put in there. It really just more so matters that you put it in there. Okay, so when you do that, we'll say sign me up. And you can save it if you want to, that's your business. And then once you're in here, you can put in those credentials into your login so that you're going to be able to log into the system. Okay, so if you're following along on the instructions, that takes you register an account up to step 19. All right, so we're going to log in, which is step 20. And if you came in late, this is at the bottom of blackgirlshack.org, and you can just say go to Home Lab Setup, and it's the last document on there. So we're going to log in, and we're going to get started. Okay, so like most things on the Brooklyn web app, they're set up as training exercises and games. So that you can, work on real world web application security activities and be able to get some hands-on skills. So that's the purpose of why we're doing that. And what we're doing today is just going to be specifically web apps. So we're going to click on challenges on the left, which is part of the login process. And then we're going to click on bad data validation. Okay, so there's 2 activities in here, poor data validation step 1 and poor data validation step 2. So we're actually going to do poor data validation .1. All right, so the purpose of this activity is to be able to buy trolls for free. Okay, everybody wants to be able to buy things for free. You might not be able to use these tools on, like, say, Amazon, but you might be able to use them somewhere if they have poor validation, which is a legitimate thing that you'll see if you're doing web application testing. All right, so we're going to buy the trolls, and the trolls are actually the $3,000 ones down here, but we need to do that for free. Okay, so we're going to just buy 1 troll just so you can see what's going on, and we're going to click place our order. So it says that it's loading and the order has complete, and our order came to a total of $30,000. Okay, so our goal is to do this for free. So we are not going to be able to do that way. Okay, so we're going to try another thing. We're going to see if we can do it for if a positive number, we're going to try to do a negative number. Okay, so if they don't validate that the number is greater than 0, then it's possible that someone can actually put in a negative number. So I'm just going to say -1 and then try to place the order. Okay, so if I do that, it's me, your order is complete, and your order has come to a total of -3,000. Okay, so this is actually supposed to, let me see, show you the key after you do place the order. But before we do that, I just want you to pull up Burp Suite, because I think the next activities we need to do with Burp Suite. So you can pull up Burp Suite, which comes installed by default, and you can just click through all of these methods. And we're just going to put that in the background. And you can just minimize it. We're going to come back to it. All right, so we're going to, like I said, try to put in negative numbers in here and place the order and see. And that's actually supposed to give us the admit all. The key, but it might be because we don't have the proxy on to be able to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up Burp Suite and I'm going to turn it on. So in order to turn it on, you want to click on the proxy and intercept is on is the default, and you want to make sure that the options are on and this button is checked here. Okay. Also, in order to get Burp Suite to work, you're going to want to turn on your preferences. So if you click on the 3 lines here, and you say preferences, it'll pull up this window, and then you can just type proxy into the window here and then click settings. So for your manual proxy settings, we're going to just set it up if it's not already populated as 127.0.0.1 and it's specifically looking on port 80. Okay, so this is actually going to match up with what we put into Burp Suite. And I've just started a whole nother Burp Suite, which I didn't want to do. So if we come back over here to Burp Suite, we'll see that the interface that it's listening on is port 8080 on the home address. Yes, I'm sure I want to add. So I don't need 2 of these. All right, so we have it on. We are setting the proxy up. You selected manual proxy, and then you're going to click OK. Okay, so when we do that over again and we reset, Burp Suite, which is going to pick it up, is going to intercept it for us, and then we can just click the forward button. And it comes back over here to the thing for us, the website for us. All right, so we see it's working now. So we're going to click on the poor data validation and then just forward that through. You'll see information that we're going to use in a minute. And then once you forward that through, you get to the poor data validation. So we're going to, again, put in the -1 here, and hopefully this time it works. So the troll amount is -1, and then we're going to forward it. And it's supposed to show us the key. But that's the purpose of the activity. So when you actually do it, it'll show you the key, and then you can actually submit the key here. Let me just try one more thing. All right, so I'm going to click on here and it gets picked up, and I'm going to forward it, and then I'm going to type in -1 and place the order, and then I'm going to let's see, forward this to the repeater and see if it gives us, and it is not. This was actually working yesterday. I'm not sure why it's not. Is anyone else able to get it to show you the key? No one? All right, let's try the second one and see if that one actually works. So we're going to turn off the intercept, and we're going to click on the second one and see if this one is working. And for this one, it says we're going to try a really big number to see if there's a buffer overflow issue. So we're just going to put in a really big number into the troll field and see if that works. And then we're going to place an order. And it says that the order failed. So we need to actually get it to go through. So I think that the number that I did yesterday was 70,000. And that wasn't big enough because our order came to a total. So let's try a bigger number. So let maybe try 700,000. And that's not big enough. So let's try 7 million. And then so it caused the buffer overflow. The number was too big, so it gives us the key. So this is the way that it's actually supposed to happen when you actually complete the activity. Is it'll give you a code which they can then select and then enter it in. And you can actually, if you do this on your repeater, be able to copy it. And I think mine started with a 3. And then you can submit it, and then it'll tell you that your validation was completed successfully, and congratulations. Okay. So when that happens, if you refresh the page, you should be able to see in the challenges that you've actually completed the activity. So it'll show as a check mark. All right, so any questions about how to do those? So, and there are actually a lot of challenges in here. I think we're going to do a couple of the IDOR challenges, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand the concept behind these types of challenges. So they're basically just checking to make sure that if you put in a quantity and it's not been validated by the web developers, that you're able to exceed what you're supposed to be able to do. So in this case, we were able to get free trolls because the buffer overflows. And then for this one, you're supposed to be able to use the negative numbers to do it, but for whatever reason, it is not currently working for me. So I will check and see what you're actually supposed to do. But this is just basically to show you some of the options that you can do within your home lab to practice, for example, your web validation skills. And each one of these things, each one of these categories is a different web application security vulnerability type that you can test. So I was telling you guys in the first lab, which was for the new lab, who this part 1, about like how if you get really good at these web application testing things that you can do, use these skills to do bug bounties and things of that nature, and where you can make money, definitely outside of your job. So that's just definitely an option once you get good at doing these different types of activities. So the next one we're going to check out, which is step 29, if there are no questions, is the IDOR challenges. So I think we're going to do IDOR challenge number 1. Yes, we're doing up 1. So we have Burp Suite up and running already because we got it up for the other thing. So it should be running in the background. And I think we're going to need the intercept on for this one. So to intercept on. And what we're going to do is click on the IDOR and just forward it through till we get to the main page. So the purpose of this activity is for indirect object reference challenge, okay? So the purpose of this basically is to be able to access information that you shouldn't be able to, okay? So if we click on, and I'm just gonna turn off Burp Suite for a second, you can leave yours on, but I just wanted to show you what's going on here. So if we click on show profile, for example, it shows us whether or not there's a message that's set up in Paul's account, okay? So if we click on show profile for Will, it shows us that he loves to go karting, okay? So there are a list of, I think it's maybe 5 or 6 people in this list. and each one of them has either a blank message or some type of message. So the purpose of this exercise is to be able to access a private message for someone that is not displayed in a list. So there are other people who are in the database for this, but only certain people's names are shown. Okay, so the real world application for this is if you see, for example, that an organization is using numbers to represent people, and you see number 2, or that you're number 2, you can click on number 3 to see if you can get access to that organization just by the fact that it's not securely referencing other values. Okay, so if you have been following along, you're going to want to turn back your intercept back on, and then we're going to click on Paul Bork, which is step 32 if you're following along in the steps, and we're going to say show profile. So when we do that, it just says loading here, and that's because Burp Suite picked up the message here. Okay, so what you'll see in here is that they're using numbers to reference the person's user ID. Okay, so user number 1 represents Paul, and if we click forward, we'll see that Paul has no message sent. But if we do this again and we intercept it, we can actually change this and say, hey, I don't want to do number 1's profile. I want to see what number 2 is, right? So we're going to forward the message that says number 2. So even though number 2 is not shown here, we were able to submit user 2, and then the web server says to us, hey, user 2 could not be found or does not exist. Okay, quite possible that user 3 might be there. Okay, so we're going to look at these and see if there's a pattern. Okay, so we're going to look at Will's profile, and Will's profile is going to be number 3. And so what we're going to do is just change this, and we're going to look at number 4, just to see whose profile is not here, because the exercise of this exercise is basically to get someone else's message. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just click on the next person and say show profile. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send this to the repeater so that we can check all of the other options. Okay, because it is easier if you can actually see in the repeater. So you're going to click on HTTP history, and the one that we're looking at is right. It should be the very last one, which is user ID 5, and you're going to click and say send to the repeater. All right, so what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to see in real time the response that we enter by changing this so that we don't have to keep intercepting and doing all of that, right? So I think that we can actually turn off the intercept now that you see, how you can intercept the traffic. This is like the equivalent of a man-in-the-middle attack, by the way. All right, so we're going to turn the intercept off because we have this in the repeater, and we're going to send it in the repeater. All right, so we have number 5, so we're going to say go, and that gives us a message for or a query. So then we're going to try the other options, and I think I said try numbers 1 through 12 to figure out which one is not actually in there. So we're going to click go on number 6, and this user is not found. And I think that the one that ends up being the one that is not there, that gives us the special key, is number 11. So there's a hidden user in there, and their key is here. So you can see the hidden message here, the result key in here. So we can copy this. And you can just regular copy it. And we're going to paste it into the security check so that we can get credit for completing this activity. All right, so any questions about how we did that? Or any questions about why you would care about that? No? All right. So again, if you refresh, sometimes it gets a little stuck, and you click back on IDOR, you should now see a check mark for challenge 1. So that we can move on to the next one. And I think we're going to also do challenge number 2. All right, so this example is the same type of exercise. We're looking for the result key for this challenge. It's stored in a private message for a user that is not listed below. Okay, so we're going to again turn on our intercept, and because we want to intercept the message, and I'm going to click on Paul and say show profile. And the reason why we're doing that is that I just want to see how the user message is encoded. Okay, so before our user messages was just set up as typically like user, just a number, a decimal number, okay? But currently it's not set up that way. It's actually set up as a different type of number, okay? So if we take a look at that, you'll find out, and we are on number 41 at this point. If you were to take a look at this, and then if you send it to the decoder, we're going to see that this is actually, this is encoded as, I want to say it was, what was it? Was it hex? No. Decode as hex. It's actually, it ends up being the number 2. So let me find, or maybe it was a hash. I'm going to copy this. So that you can see what I'm talking about. And let's see, it was Md5. Oh, I need to do this on my computer. Okay, that one came up. Oh, okay, we can type it in here and see if it comes up. And I'm gonna put it in the other one as well. Let's see if this one's just faster. All right, so as you can see, this is Md5 hash, and it just is the hash version of the number 2, okay? So it's the same type of information as was put in there before, but instead now they encrypted the number using Md5, okay? So someone wanted to know, why would this be important, right? Sometimes when you see web applications, they encode the messages. Like if they do a good job, they'll try to obfuscate information so that you don't know that this is number 2. This is a big way, you know, a large number to be representing the number 2. But when you actually saw that it was a number 2, then you can just realize that you just need to put in, for example, the number 3 instead to be able to access the hidden user. Okay, so in this case, the answer is actually put into an Md5 hash instead. So they think that if it's hashed, then that makes it harder for people to be able to access the hidden. So, you know, the real world application is saying, like, let's say when you log into your bank account, and then it actually has in the URL a number that represents who you are, like as a part of your session ID, right? So if you can figure out that that is encoded in a certain type of way, then you can use that information to go and find Bob's account number that you know, because you know Bob has an account at the same bank. Okay, so if you can figure out how the message is being encoded, and in this case, you can actually see that it is encoded as Md5 and it actually represents the number 2. And then, so now we know that, since we know that it's a hash for an Md5, we can use that to try to find the secret person's account. So we can't just put the number in there like 1 or 2 the way we did it before, because now it's looking for an Md5 hash number, okay? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to, on number 42, we're going to turn off the intercept, and we're going to go to HTTP history, and then we're going to click on the last one, which has the user ID, and we're going to send this to the intruder. And the reason why we're going to send this into the intruder is that we want to set up an automated way for them to be able to circle through all of the options that are available. We're going to just try, I think, 1 to 20, just to see which users' messages are hidden. Okay, so right now you're saying, hey, I don't necessarily care about someone's messages, but if this is someone's, for example, bank account, or maybe someone's DMs, then it might be more interesting to be able to access. Any questions about that? All right, so we are on step number 42. So we're going to send it to the intruder, which we did, and then we're going to click on position, and we're going to highlight all of these, and we're going to say clear this thing that looks like a $sign, and we only want to make sure that the only thing that has a $sign on it around it is the user ID. And because what this is saying is that we want to substitute in all of the different options from 1 to 20 into this user ID. We're going to tell it to look for specifically hashed values, and then we're going to put those in so that we can check and see what the secret messages are. All right, so we have the user ID, and we have this on Sniper, which is what we want. We're going to click on the payload, and we're going to change this from simple list to numbers. And we're going to type in from 1 to 20, because we just want to check those. And then we're going to say step 1, okay? Because we're looking specifically just at the step 1, okay? So we are going to add a encoding. So we're going to say specifically add, and then we're going to say select, and we know that it is a hash, so we're going to say add a hash, and we know that it is Md5. So we're going to say this. So this is going to say, hey, I want you to try all the hashed values of the numbers 1 through 20 in that field that we selected, so that we can see which one. So what we're going to do now is say start attack. And what this is going to do is it's going to kick off the results, and it's going to show us that it's trying options 1 through 20. So as we saw, this C8 number is just the hashed value of number 2. So it's trying all the different hashed values to see which one gives us access to the hidden message, okay? So the hint that I gave you in this is that we're looking between 9 and 14. So if you click on 9, and we're specifically looking for the key, so this one shows up, and the response is that the user's not found. So if we click on the next one, it says user not found. 11 is a message from Pat that says that he has a car. 12 is user not found. And 13 actually gives us the secret message that we are not supposed to have access to, because that person's not even shown in the list. So we can copy that and then go back over to the web browser and paste that in the top. And this will give us credit for the second indirect object challenge. So congratulations. So if you refresh this and come back in here, it should now show us that both of these are checked off. All right, so any questions about the indirect object? So as you can see, there's a lot of different challenges that you can, step through in a lot of different areas for web application testing that you can be able to check out and see so that you can just step up your skills and try to figure out what you're looking for. And the good thing of Security Shepherd is that a lot of the information is available in lessons. So like if you're like, hey, if I didn't have you walking me through this, I wouldn't even know what it is that I'm supposed to do. That's absolutely cool. You can click on the lessons, and then it'll show you how to do each different type of activity, and it can walk through. And some schools actually do this, and they keep track of the points that you get from doing this. So if you click on there and you can see if there were other people that were competing against you, in this case, there's only just you, you could see where you rank against other ones, because each one of the questions has a score that corresponds to each of the challenges. So as you beat the levels, then you get the points associated with that challenge. All right, so any questions about any of that? No? All right, so the next one up that we're going to do is we're going to go back to the main menu. So you can actually turn off your burp intercept if it was still on. So intercept is off for me. And we're going to go back to the main menu because that is just one of the different activities that are in your broken web app that you can use to be able to practice your ethical hacking skills. Okay, so the next one we're going to take a look at is the Damn Vulnerable Web App. Okay, so Damn Vulnerable Web App, it actually doesn't come with a login or registration. You can try the one that you did. You're going to find out that it doesn't work. Login failed. But for most of these types of web apps, especially if they're not properly configured, you can try admin. So when I tried admin, that let me in. And that takes you in here. Okay, so I don't need to save that. So Damn Vulnerable Web App, like WebGo and like Security Shepherd, is just a different application that you can use to be able to practice different types of activities. So now that we've logged in, we're on step number 53. We're going to click the brute force. Okay. So when you click on the brute force, the purpose of this is if you have a website that does not, for example, restrict the number of attempts. So let's say I log in with the wrong password, and then it says no, right? So I log in again and it says no. After the third time, a lot of websites will just shut your account down and be like, you need to call in customer service because someone's putting in a lot of incorrect password attempts. Okay, but Damn Vulnerable Web App is set up to just be damn vulnerable. So we're going to practice our brute force skills on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and launch the terminal. So you might still have it up from before when you did the ping. And we're going to launch Hydra to be able to do a brute force attack. Okay, so we're going to, if you look at the picture in here, we're going to do Hydra, and we're going to just try to access Hydra over FTP. Okay, so what you're going to type in, as you can see on the document here, is Hydra -L user -P. So I'm just going to type that in. You have it on your document as well. I should have put it in text so you can just copy and paste it. So I apologize for that, but we're going to say Hydra -L user -P. And then we're going to just use a common word list that's on all of our Kali machines. So we're just going to use the RockU. And the reason why you're using the RockU list is it's a list of passwords from a famous breach. The breach was called RockU. And there's like, I think thousands, if not more, of common passwords in there. So we're going to just use that because this is insecure. So there's going to be some common passwords in here. So we're going to say user share word list, and you can actually just start typing word list and press tab. And then we're going to say RockU.txt. If it tells you that yours is RockU.txt.gz, then you're going to need to unzip that file in the folder. And I can show you how to do that in a second. And then we're going to say specifically FTP : --10.0.2.14. So I'm going to open up a new browser because if you do not have the RockU list unzipped because you've never used it before, what you can do is say gzip, I think it's -d, and say user share word list RockU. And then it should complete with you with the RockU.txt.gz so that you can unzip it. So mine is not showing up because I've already unzipped it, but if yours says .gz, then you need to unzip it in order to be able to run this. So when you do run this, and the reason why I made this window over here is that when you run this, this takes a while to do. So this is not even going to complete. At the time that I stopped this, it had been probably running for about an hour. So this is clearly not one of the most efficient ways, especially considering the length of the list. But what it's going to do is it's going to go through and try to log in with each one of the different passwords into this web server. Okay. So, and specifically, it's not even just doing this this URL. It's just basically doing the damn vulnerable web app, which is why it takes so long. Okay. So, if you were doing this for real and expected it because you wanted to do a brute force if they didn't have protection in the web server, you'd want to actually include like the whole URL that you're actually trying, because like right now it's just trying to get into the damn vulnerable web app just through FTP with all of those passwords. And it actually takes a really long time. But that's just something else that you can practice doing, is just doing brute force attacks. And in real life, maybe unless you're looking at a system that's offline, you don't want to do brute force attacks, because like I said, most systems have, after 3 attacks or after 3 attempts, it's going to lock you out. So if you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're looking at the data offline, so that you can be able to, complete it. Because like I said, this actually, when you run Hydra, especially the way that I did it just against the open broken web app server, it takes a really long time, because like I said, the RockU list, which I'll show you real quick, is very long. See, so it just has a list of all of the different passwords that people try, tend to have, and that were in that breach because of that attack. All right, so that is all that I have for you for today. Any questions? All right, I do not see any questions in the chat, and I do not see anyone unmuting themselves to be able to ask their questions. But there are, in addition to the WebGope and the Security Shepherd, there are also in Damn Vulnerable Web App a lot of the different activities. So we did like the cross-site reference forgery over in Security Shepherd. They have their version as well. They've also got, like, for example, CAPTCHA challenges, file exclusion, cross-site scripting. So there are a lot of different attacks that you can do in here. I think that they also, in some of the other attacks, in some of the other vulnerable web applications, have like some WordPress that you can actually, I think it was Ghost that had, let's see, this one has RFI and Flash and forced browsing, but some of the other applications that are available off of on the Damn Vulnerable Web actually allow you to be able to hack. Here it is, WordPress, for example, or some of the other things that you'll see online. So this is, a good way to get yourself familiar, with the different web applications. So like I said, you can actually do this in terms of a bug bounty, or if you want to be a web application tester in real life, that's a good paying job. So there are a lot of different things that you can do in your home lab that will allow you to get real world skills that you can then talk about in an interview. All right, so last call. Any questions about any of the things that we talked about as far as activities that you can do with your home lab? And like I said, if you missed the first one, which we actually took a look at the vulnerabilities that were on the broken web app and how to go about finding those, that walkthrough is right above the part 2, which we just did today.
I have a question.
Sure.
Hey, so I am extraordinarily new to this and I saw when in this, I think Slack, it was saying that you guys were doing this and about having a home lab set up and about learning about what it is. So I have a question that I think I understand what it is. It's basically finding or using an environment to practice whatever it is you're trying to practice, and calling it a home lab, even though it sounds like, some sort of to me, it sounds like, I think of lab, I think like laboratory, like, a room with like bottles and stuff or whatever. But in this particular case, because of what it is, a home lab is basically just creating a space and a place to practice these skills.
Oh yeah. So let me give you a little bit of background, okay? So what it is that you have a VirtualBox manager, and then it has multiple VMs. So VMs are like operating systems. So like right now I'm on a Windows machine and that's my op system. But if I tried to do some of these activities against like real world companies like scanning, I'd probably have the police or someone knocking on my door, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose of the home lab is to be able to have a sectioned off environment that allows you to be able to do ethical hacking activities without violating anyone in a law. So when we actually set these up, and I think we have one in March coming up, another home lab set up, if you missed the first one. What we do is we set them up so that there's a Kali VM, there's a Windows VM, and then there's a broken web app. So the broken web app, which is what we've been using today, is an intentionally vulnerable VM that it's set up basically so that you can do scanning activities. So it's not locked down. It doesn't have a whole bunch of security. If you look at our Windows VM that we have in our network, and the walkthrough of how to set up the lab is here. But like if you prefer interactive active and you need to ask questions, like I said, we have another workshop coming up in a few weeks in March. You can do it on here, but when you set them up and so that they can be able to talk to each other, and then they're on the network by themselves. So what this does is this segments off the network from your actual computer. Okay, so that you can just be able to communicate and do networking things, do firewalls, practice, attacks and defense, do all of the different ethical hacking activities that people are going to ask you about when you go to apply for a job. You can do all of that in your home lab environment. Okay, so what it is just like I said, it's just a segmented set of VMs that you can practice on. So if you imagine, like, for example, if you're at a school and there's a network, right, you might see, maybe 100 computers that are all on the same network that, are listening to the traffic from the other computers, right? So we're doing that, but we're doing it with just 3 VMs. So there's 3 computers that are on our network. There's the Windows computer, there's the broken web app, which is Linux, and then there's the Kali machine, which is also Linux. So what that gives us is 3 different machines to be able to research vulnerabilities, to research threats, to be able to practice these skills without actually, threatening to land us in jail.
Oh, cool. It's just a safe place to practice.
Yes. And there's some online, but for the most part, when you find them online, they cost money and they're pretty expensive.
How does this work compared to like a Try Hack Me?
So Try Hack Me actually provides specifically VMs that they host themselves that you can log in and to be able to attack and be able to scan themselves, right? So you can access a lot of their rooms for free. But what this does is it makes it so that you can do it in your own environment and you don't have to, do theirs. Because at some point, a lot of the stuff that they have on like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me, at some point you'll run out of the free boxes and then you'll have to upgrade to some of the paid boxes. But what I'm showing you is that, through VirtualBox, through virtualization and in the real world, this is a type 2 hypervisor. They don't actually use VirtualBox like at Amazon or, at an actual business, right? But the concepts behind this, the setting up a home lab, like this is the same thing that you would do if you were to go into like an Amazon Web Services and set up, you could set up the 3 VMs and connect them to be able to communicate with each other, right? You could pay for that service, but then you're paying them, per minute or per hour or whatever it is for that services, right? So it actually costs money. So this is just a free way for you to be able to, practice your ethical hacking skills, especially if you want to do like web applications. But there are a lot of tools on here that are actually used. I think Burp Suite is actually used in real life. Wireshark is definitely used in real life. Nmap is definitely used in real life. So all of the tools that we use are basically supposed to give you hands-on skills so that when you go into the interview and you're saying, hey, I don't actually have experience from a job from this, but I've done this in my home lab. I understand the concepts behind it. I can use Burp Suite. I can use Wireshark. I can do all of these things. I've got demonstrated experience. And depending on what you're doing, there are different ways that you can try to document this. You can do write-ups, for example. There are a lot of write-ups that people do on the same activity just to show that they have a mastery of it. And you can put it into a GitHub, for example, so that recruiters, and put it on your resume, so the recruiters can go and look and see, hey, I've done these rooms on Try Hacking, or I've done these rooms in in my home lab, and this is evidence of it, so you can see the types of tools that I'm used to using.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? No? All right. Again, so like if you were just following along, we have the home lab set up coming up on a few weeks. So it's on a Thursday in March. Tomorrow we at Black Girls Hack, which is open to everyone. You can do the Friday night labs. Saturday we have Intro to Capture the Flag practice, which is based for people who do not know how to do capture the flags, but are interested in doing them. We teach you the approach to how to do those types of competitions so that you can, be able to hop in and score and take over the world. And then we also have Security Plus and CEH study groups that are open to everyone as well, in case those are part of your world domination plan. So please feel free to come out, tell a friend about our workshops. They're all free so that you can come out and get hands-on skills to help you get into and excel within the cybersecurity field. So that's all I have. And if there are no more questions, I will see you guys in the Slack. Have a good night. Yes. No questions. Okay. Ed was saying that it's a good point about documenting your skills. That's very important if you're working in cybersecurity to be able to document your skills. Any more questions? No? All right. I will end this and you guys have a good night.